Hey there everybody, it's Mark Crowley. I'm back with another How to Draw video. Today we're going to be learning how to draw braids. Now I know a lot of people like to follow along with these videos, so right now I'm going to do the basic guidelines of the head and the shoulders, and then we'll come back and start getting into drawing the braids. Alright, well I think we've got enough of the basic guidelines in place. What I'm going to do right now is reshift the focus right in here on the one braid, and we'll start getting into the details of it. Alright, so I should say first of all that there are lots of different ways of braiding hair, of course, but I looked at one photograph and I saw a girl who had done her hair like this. And it began with a very loose, large strand of hair. I don't know if strand is the right word, but it comes across like so. So you're taking this sort of larger mass of hair up here and pulling it down into one of these divisions that will eventually get braided together. So again, if you're following along, you can try to get this in as like your first part of the braid. But the actual subsections of the braid are going to come in down here. Now, you know, it's funny because I've only just started with a refocus here, but I think I should probably refocus yet again so that you can see what I'm going to be calling these subsections, which is my method of making it easier to draw braids. Now, I know a lot of people will say, well, it's not that hard to draw braids, but I, for one, find that it can get a little confusing, the pattern that emerges when you try to draw a long series of braids. So I'm going to show you my technique, but to help you out, I'm going to zoom in yet further so that you can see the basic shape. Okay, so this is the method that I have come up with, and you know, some people may feel it's weird, but for me, I find it's the easiest way to do this. And what I've come up with is a kind of an upside-down heart shape, or it might more accurately be described as a kind of a check mark shape, because one side of it is maybe a little longer than the other. So if you look at this basic unit here that I've drawn, this is the thing that I'm going to be repeating again and again. So watch how I do this, and each time it's going to get just a little bit smaller. And I find, just for me anyway, remembering what this shape looks like is not so hard. And getting one to fit inside the other is maybe easier for me to remember than trying to start figuring out the, you know, the individual strands of hair that are folding through one another and so forth. And, you know, maybe it's just me, the idiot that I am. I can't remember, or I get sort of lost in the pattern if I try to really draw it the way it is folded as hair. And I got to be careful because I'm getting down to the end of the frame. But what I want to do now is show you that once you've got some of these, you know, upside down hearts or check marks or whatever you want to call them, it becomes a relatively simple matter of taking one line on each one of them and continuing across. See? And then that goes like that. And then that goes like that. And there is my handy dandy little trick. And if you want my new book on how to draw braids, just send $9.95. No, you don't have to pay anything for my little trick here. It is I might include this in Mastering Manga too, actually. So don't get angry if I repeat myself here. But that's my basic trick for drawing braids. And I'm going to pull back a little more so that you can see me repeat it all the way through to finish it off. All right, so that pretty much brings us to the part where I'm going to draw a bow on each one of the braids. Of course, you could come up with whatever method you like of putting a fastener here that holds the hair in place. And again, I'm no expert on this. I suppose there are different things that happen after the fastener comes into place. But if you want to keep it simple, generally speaking, this is where you're going to have a few strands, sort of the loose hair at the end of the braid. And as I looked at most of the drawings and even the real-life photograph, it seemed that the hair would basically all curve in one direction. So choose whichever direction you like and sort of stick with that. Let me do this again in time-lapse to finish off that one. All right, now this is a little unorthodox because normally you don't finish off with just one subsection of a drawing to completion all on its own, but I am going to actually do that this time. I'm going to go in with my trusty black Prismacolor and do the final line work just on the braids here so that I can move on to showing you my shading techniques. All right, well, I'm sure most of you are aware of the fact that today is National Refocus Your Camera Day. And I hope you're all celebrating it the way I am by continually refocusing the camera every 3 minutes. So what I'm going to do now is refocus so that I can get in a little closer to show you my shading techniques on the braids themselves. All right, so I showed you my kind of upside-down heart or check mark thing. That's, for me, a great way of sort of getting the basic lines in place. But at this stage, you may want to start thinking about the actual structure of the hair. And the fact that this is a strand of hair here, this is one of the strands that she has pulled, and it's curving here. If you want to get into the shading to the degree that I'm doing here today, that line is actually coming down to this one, right? And that is a single strand of hair there. And that also can affect your decisions about shading. That, like right around here is where I would want to darken things in, maybe also on the other side, but certainly not so much in the middle. And, just for fun to continue this idea of how this is a single strand of hair, I'm going to go ahead and shade right here, with this all being a single sort of rivulet of hair flowing down the mountain of her braid. What a weird metaphor. Mark Riley, king of the weird metaphors. So that gives you a sense of the actual structure that's underlying this. And then I'll just go back in over here and repeat the process for each individual piece. So it does help to, what I started doing here in a way is also incorrect because I looked at a photo of the hair, and as I recall, you're going to have this actually curving down here. I hope that's showing up. I'm getting a little obsessive compulsive here with doing, but I figure, hey, if I'm going to do something on braids, let's go all the way and teach it in a crazy detailed way. But yeah, if you want to get serious, if you're drawing like a close-up of your character's face and she has braids, why not go all the way down to the details and show the way the hair bends around as it flows through the design. People who like details will appreciate seeing that extra level of detail there. Well, I think we're probably as far as we need to go with that aspect of it. I'm going to go ahead and time-lapse and finish the shading on both of the braids. All right, well, you're definitely getting a good feeling of the individual strands of hair here, though I feel it's not quite shiny enough, so I'm going back in now with my eraser. I'm going to give just a little extra shine to each individual part, lighten things up. Hey, lighten up, Crilly, will you? Gosh, taking yourself so seriously all the time. So we go ahead and lighten these little areas up, and I think that sort of is going to give it a little shimmer, a little extra hair-like feeling. And that pretty much brings us to... Oh, wait a minute. I got the final strands down here. Hey, it is National Refocus the Camera Day, so you know what I'm going to do. So yes, just a few final words on shading in this last part of each braid. This has got to be the most thorough tutorial on braids ever. I could be wrong about that, but I feel like I'm just going down a rabbit hole of detail on getting these braids right. But, you know, sometimes you have to go a little too far and then you scale back next time you do something like this. But basically following the same thing, keeping an idea of the curvature of the hair here, and then maybe, as I did before, putting in a highlight here to sort of lighten up the final drawing of the hair. And maybe now we are finally done with the braids. And what I'm going to do is refocus my camera yet again so that we can do the final line work with the black Prismacolor, finish up the shading, and then maybe come back and give you some final tips. Okay, well, there's my video on how to draw braids. I hope you found it useful. My last little tip would be, don't forget about the shading on the individual subsections of the subdivisions. Your patience in adding shading here will really pay off in terms of a sense of three-dimensionality. But maybe it's time for me to thank everyone who has supported me by getting my books. We've got Brody's Ghost, we've got Miki Falls, and of course we've got Mastering Manga, my How to Draw manga book. I do greatly appreciate anyone who supports me by getting those books, but this drawing is not done until you add the blushies. And there was much rejoicing in the blushy sphere. But maybe it is time for me to lay down this pencil. I want to thank you all for watching this video. I hope you found it useful, and I'll be back with another one real soon.